Welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one. LeBron James needs to retire. Should he retire? And will he retire? That is going to be the biggest show on earth going on once the NBA Finals is over. Okay? And I'm surprised it's not even bigger than what it is. We've, of course, heard so much about it during these playoffs, but the circus is just going to catch fire and get out of control once the NBA Finals is over. And I think, if a team like Denver was playing Miami, something like that, I think it will be out of control right now. Nobody would care about the finals, and we'll just be talking about LeBron James and his son Bronny, who is a garbage can. Okay, so we got to think about this. This guy should have retired to me in 2000 and I would say 17. Maybe he should have retired. Okay, when he knew that, and people be like, "What? He went to the finals in 18." Well, if he knew he was going to meet Kevin Durant in the finals again with the Warriors, and he just got beat 4-1 or 1-4, whatever you want to look at it, whoever's favor, he got beat, right? So Kyrie was gone in 2018, and he still made it to the finals. If I'm not mistaken, weren't they a number 3 or number 4 seed? It just shows how weak that East was. So he made it back to the finals without Kyrie, a team that they kept rearranging and stuff like that in the middle of the season. They didn't know who was going to be on that roster. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they brought in Derrick Rose at one point, and who was it? Dwayne Wade and all these different guys, and they thought they had it under wraps. And I guess they did. They went to the NBA Finals in 2018. And some people say after that humiliation in the whole JR debacle, they could have won that game 1 at least. So we all know what happened the rest of that series, because even in game 4, right, LeBron quit on his team. That's what they said. LeBron quit in that overtime in game 1, and then he quit on his team in game 4. And the fact that Stephen A. Smith still has this guy number 2 is just ridiculous. The way Stephen A. Smith went in on this guy for quitting on his team in game 4 while you're about to get swept is ridiculous. So he should have retired after that year, 2019. We all know he didn't make the playoffs after he activated playoff mode. And then he had to get AD in the offseason. And then he won the bubble, right? So even if you try to be nice, 2020 should have been his retiring point, that he should have just exited out of the league. Because at that time, everybody's emotions was all crazy because of the pandemic and stuff. And, so the bubble championship kind of meant more in 2020 than it does in 2021, 2022, 23, and now 2024. The bubble just keeps getting exposed down the line. And I think that's mostly because of LeBron James, his antics, his building super teams, him not able to do anything since the pandemic and winning that championship. So if he just would have went out on top with that bubble championship, maybe people really would have counted that more and would have respected him more for winning that bubble championship and going out like that, right? Because it was, at the time, everybody was hyping that up as this big thing. I think people, they were selling out. People like Paul Pierce saying, "Oh, he's the greatest of all time now," and even Charles Barkley was talking good about the bubble championship, and it was just ridiculous. Now we look back at it as the years go by and pretty much piss on it, right? And and how weak it was, just like the pandemic. We finally know that the whole thing was a cash grab, right? For companies and corporations to get millions and billions and hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands and thousands, depending on how big your company was. All you had to do was have an LLC. So we look back at things sometimes we're able to, take two steps back and look at the bigger picture than what we've been told, or we just look at things with a lot of emotions at the time because we're told a lot of stuff, and we don't get enough time to process what we've been told because we got other things we got to deal with, or other things to think about, and you know what's in the dark will come to the light, like they say. So he should have retired then. Then he goes on next season, builds this super team, and they don't even make the. No, it wasn't next year. My fault. The next season, exit first round, basically with the same team. Exit first round with the same team. So that's what I'm trying to say. We're not in the bubble no more. Now he's got to play people with their head on straight. Um, you're not playing in Mickey World, all this stuff. You're not getting all this rest. He exit first round, I think against the Suns, and they got destroyed by the Bucks. So that's another thing we'll talk about this year's playoffs. But next season he builds this super duper team, and no way, bro. No way. No way. If you put Michael Jordan on that team at LeBron's age, what was LeBron? How was he back then? About 36, if I'm not mistaken. You're telling me Michael Jordan's not going to make the playoffs or make the play-in? That, that just doesn't seem right there. And you got to remember, a lot of LeBron's antics is about money and building these super teams. And you charge more for popcorn, $20 for popcorn, $50 for a hot dog, $30 for a beer, $100 for parking, all this stuff, just outrageous money, so you can go see LeBron circus act. So we know what happened that year. They didn't make the playoffs. Next year, gentleman sweep, out to play in, got to the Western Conference Finals, and I'm not going to go over that whole playoff thing, but that was suspect with Memphis as a number two. This guy, always going out with an injury. John Morant, and that's what I was talking about yesterday. Legacy. These guys do not play for legacy, and they can forget about it. They can forget about it. They'll never be in this top 10 that's in cement. When we talk about I'm not going to say them in any certain order, but when we talk about the Birds, the Wills, the Duncans, the Magics, the Kareems, the Jordans, these type of guys in this top 10 that will never be rearranged. And that's what I think. None of these guys from today, they'll never get in that top 10. If you know the top 10 that I'm talking about, they'll never get in there. Because those guys back then, they were playing for legacy. They wasn't playing for money. Go look at the top 10 greatest of all time. The Bill Russells was in there. These type of guys, these guys weren't playing for money. They were playing for legacy, right? These guys are playing for money these days in the LeBron era. I would say from the guys starting from 2010s era until now, they're playing for money, not playing for legacy. I wouldn't say all of them, but all this being injured all the time in the playoffs, in the biggest moments that define your legacy, you couldn't get these guys back in the day. You would have to drag them off the court. Drag them off the court because they want to be a top 5, a top 10 player of all time. I mean, I can't really say that about LeBron James, but he's got other antics that would disqualify him as a top 5 or a top 10 player. He's just got too many antics. So he gets gentleman swept. And then we all know he gets swept last year. And then this year he gets gentleman swept out of the play-in. And I think last year he come up out the play-in also. So he's barely making the playoffs and then getting swept and gentleman swept. So why is he coming back? Because the NBA, they're really hurting on ratings. The NBA is going down the drain as much as people don't want to admit it. The ratings are there, or should I say they're not there. I'm just saying the ratings are there to look at, and they're not cutting it. And LeBron James, I would say he pushed about a quarter of the NBA fans away since the 210s, and it keeps going. So they're not going to get those fans back until he leaves. But the NBA is so concerned about money that they want this guy around to sell some kind of soap opera, some kind of circus, merch, stuff like that, because the Lakers is really big money. And that's what I was talking about. They overcharge these people so much money to go see a basketball game. And this is what, when I tell you this, NBA is really awful. They need this guy around to sell the NBA. A flopper, a team hopper, a 4-6 loser, a guy with only 2 statistical titles, a guy who has no positional skills. So when you've been watching these playoffs, minus LeBron James, have you seen any guy barreling to the basket with a straight arm, an elbow in people's forehead, people's mouths, people's chest? Have you seen that from any other player? I haven't seen that. And then when they miss a call, they miss a shot, they start crying. I haven't seen that. Not on a level that LeBron James does it. Now, I want you to go back and watch some old school NBA basketball from the 90s, right? When those guys went up for a basket or shot a basket and they felt like they were fouled, they might make a remark like, man, what's up? And then they'll start hustling. They'll run back to the other side of the court. They will run back to the other side of the court. They might get mad, but they would just hustle right after that. These guys would always hustle back. You couldn't get beat and give up points. And another thing, like I don't care who you was back in the day, and you better been a damn superstar. When you messed up, you blown an assignment. You wasn't at the you wasn't at the right spot during the play. When they ran a play, you wasn't playing defense. And I'm not gonna say it happened every time, but these coaches will be all over you. They will be screaming at you from the sideline. They'll be screaming at you. When you came to the sideline, they will be scolding you. It would look like you was a college player. These were real coaches back in the day. You don't see that today. These coaches, if they do get mad, they're not allowed to talk to the player about it. They're not. I'm trying to tell you, this whole NBA is weird to me. I just never seen coaches get fired for making the playoffs back in the day. And I don't think it never happened until, well, I wouldn't say for not making the playoffs or for making the playoffs. I would say you would at least have to give this guy a bigger chance. Maybe he failed 3 times or something like that. Take like a dude like what was his name? Doug Collins, right? He was a great coach, but his system just couldn't get them over the top. Today you get coaches, they'll get fired after 2 years. Or get fired after 1 year and making it to the playoffs. It's ridiculous. To me, like I said, these aren't real coaches. And real coaches don't use the same offense as another coach. If you look at these teams, they all run the same offense. 4 guys sitting at the 3-point line and 1 guy in the middle, which will usually be the center. It's the same scheme. This ain't real coaching to me. This ain't no Princeton offense. This ain't no triangle offense. This is the same offense. And this I tell you how different that not the 90s was, right? Remember, they try to put the 3-point line closer, right? So they would get these guys to shoot more threes. And they actually did, but not the threes, not at a high value that, the league really wanted. They thought that would bring more offense, more scoring. The problem is, the guys in the 90s, they were more committed to playing defense. They just weren't just going to let you shoot in their face. And that's the thing is, a lot of people don't understand how the three was shot back then. Nobody's just going to leave you wide open to shoot a three. And nobody's going to keep doubling a guy that's shooting a three-pointer like today. And nobody's going to keep doubling because a guy is driving to the basket like they do today. So this is how you get so many three-pointers shot today. A guy at the three-point line will drive, and then a three-point defender will come off of his guy to help the other guy get the guy that's driving. Now that leaves the three-point guy open, so the guy that's driving, either he can keep driving with two guys on him, or he can kick it out to the three-point guy. If he kicks it out to the three-point guy, now the three-point guy says, do I shoot? Because now another defender that was guarding a three-point guy at the three-point line is coming over to get that guy with the ball at the three-point line. So now the guy at the three-point line, am I going to shoot this or am I going to pass it to another three-point guy that's open? This wouldn't happen back in the 90s. It just wouldn't. It wouldn't happen because these guys knew how to play one-on-one ball. So that guy that starts to drive initially, he's just going to be met by the guy that's defending him. It's not going to be a three-point guy that's going to come off of his guy to help the guy because the other guy needs help from the guy that's driving. It won't be like that in the 90s. These guys knew how to defend. So all these guys sitting at the three-point line would just be like useless. It would be senseless. These guys knew how to play defense. Even guys who weren't on, defensive teams knew how to play defense. Dan Marley was a great defender. I think he made 2 All-NBA second teams, defensive second teams. So all you dummies say, who would guard Michael Jordan? He made 2 second teams, defensive second teams. And then you got to compete with the other guys who were great defenders too all these years. So he's not going to keep making them. He's an offensive player. It's hard to be a good offensive player and a good defensive player. It's rare. But for him to make 2 of them showed that he was a great defender. Even Charles Barkley will tell you how great of a defender Dan Marley was. So, look, this guy needs to retire. LeBron needs to retire. He has nothing else to play for but money. That's it. As he keeps playing and he keeps getting these longevity stats, you can't keep running away from these PED allegations. We all know that what's coming as soon as this guy retires. You might need a lot of money to go to court anyway for what he's going to be facing. Because we already know how the media does. Once you're out of sight, out of mind, you're nothing to them no more. They're going for the next. And they better hope to God Luka does not win this championship. Oof. Because Luka is putting up numbers that's going to shatter the LeBron mode. Because we already know what, the what do you want to call it? The LeBron, I would just say the LeBron NBA. LeBron created this NBA, right? Where you stat pad. Nobody was really doing it until we saw LeBron doing it. It's no longer about winning and stuff like that and winning statistical titles. It's just about a whole bunch of stats. So we see Joker doing this because we know his assists aren't really impressive. He just ball hogs at the top of the key and then hands the ball off. He gets assists, gets the ball again, hands it off, gets assists. It's not like watching a real point guard run the offense. Luka, a lot ball dominant, but he's official point guard though. That's the problem. LeBron stat padded, and he was never an official point guard. Never had the handles that Luka has. Never had the hustle that Luka. I mean, this guy's averaging more rebounds than LeBron James, and will average a better stat line than LeBron James. Rebounds, assists, um, what is it? Points. So this is this is the NBA that LeBron made, and the NBA made for LeBron a no touch era, so LeBron could keep playing all these years. So he pretty much destroyed his legacy from I think from 2020, well past 2020, he's destroyed his legacy. To me, his legacy is a circus act to me. Because when he went to Miami, and then, because he melted down in '09, 2010, melted down and choked too. Had the number one seed. We know what he did in those playoffs. He melted down in those games five and sixes against Orlando and Boston. Then he goes to Miami. Not one, not two, not 10. That's a circus act, man. That's a clown show. And when we talk about, what a circus does, they take their act from city to city. And that's what this guy has did his entire career. It's a circus act. He's taking his talents from city to city. That's what a circus does. And he lost more than he won. Wherever he went. He's been a loser wherever he went. Right? Didn't win nothing in Cleveland the first time. Lost more than he won in all the other places. So tell me what you think, man. Retire.